Isn't it fascinating how the most profound truths in life often come wrapped in silence? We live in a world of noise, constant chatter, and endless distractions. But today, I want to share with you a secret so powerful, so transformative, that it might just change the course of your entire life. And that secret is, be silent, and you will get everything in your life. Now, I know what you're thinking. Everything? Really? Just by being silent? Well, let me tell you something. In all my years of studying success, observing the habits of the wealthy, and coaching people to reach their full potential, I've come to realize that silence is not just golden, it's the bedrock of true achievement. You see, most people go through life making so much noise that they can't hear the whispers of opportunity knocking on their door. They're so busy talking about what they're going to do that they never actually get around to doing it. But the achievers, the real movers and shakers of this world, they understand the power of silence. Let me ask you, have you ever noticed how the most successful people in any room are often the quietest? They're not the ones bragging about their accomplishments or shouting their plans from the rooftops. No, they're the ones listening, observing, and absorbing. They're the ones who understand that true power lies in stillness. Now, I'm not saying you should never speak. Communication is crucial, of course. But what I'm saying is that we need to learn the art of strategic silence. We need to cultivate the ability to be still, to listen, not just with our ears, but with our entire being. Think about it. When you're silent, truly silent, what happens? Your mind clears. The constant chatter in your head begins to quiet down. And in that silence, in that stillness, something magical happens. Ideas start to flow. Clarity emerges. Solutions to problems you've been grappling with for months suddenly become crystal clear. But it goes beyond just mental clarity. Silence allows you to tune into your intuition, that inner voice that knows what's best for you. In our noisy world, that voice often gets drowned out. But when you cultivate silence, you give it room to speak. And let me tell you, that voice is wise beyond measure. I remember a young man I once mentored. He was always talking, always planning, always telling everyone about his big ideas. But you know what? He never seemed to make any real progress. One day, I sat him down and said, "Son, for the next week, I want you to practice being silent. Don't tell anyone your plans. Don't share your ideas. Just listen, observe, and reflect." At first, he thought I was crazy, but he respected me enough to give it a try. And you know what happened? By the end of that week, he had more clarity about his goals than he'd had in years. He realized that half the things he'd been talking about weren't even things he truly wanted. He'd just been making noise because he thought that's what successful people did. But here's the kicker. Not only did he gain clarity, but opportunities started coming his way. People who had previously avoided him because of his constant chatter now sought him out. They were intrigued by his new, thoughtful demeanor. And in those conversations, real opportunities emerged. You see, when you're silent, you create space. Space for others to share their wisdom. Space for the universe to bring you what you need. Space for your own inner wisdom to emerge. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but if I'm silent, how will people know what I have to offer? How will I get ahead in this competitive world? Well, let me tell you something. True power doesn't need to announce itself. It's like gravity. It attracts without effort. When you're silent, you become magnetic. People are drawn to you because you exude a sense of peace, of confidence. They want to know what you know. They want to understand the source of your calm in this chaotic world. But it's not just about how others perceive you. The real magic happens within. When you embrace silence, you start to hear the whispers of your soul. You start to tap into a wellspring of creativity and insight that you never knew existed. I once knew a businessman who was on the verge of bankruptcy. He had tried everything. New marketing strategies, cost-cutting measures, you name it, nothing seemed to work. In desperation, he decided to take a silent retreat. For a week, he spoke to no one. He didn't check his phone. He didn't read the news. He just sat in silence, walked in nature, and listened. You know what happened? By the end of that week, He had the solution to all his business problems. It wasn't a magic bullet, mind you. It was a series of insights that had been there all along, buried under layers of noise and distraction. In the silence, those insights bubbled to the surface. He came back from that retreat, a changed man. Not only did he turn his business around, but he also found a new sense of purpose and direction in his life, all because he had the courage to be silent. Now, I'm not suggesting you all go on week-long silent retreats, although that wouldn't be a bad idea. What I am suggesting is that you start incorporating pockets of silence into your daily life. Start small if you need to. 5 minutes of silence in the morning before you start your day. A silent walk in nature. A few moments of quiet reflection before you go to bed. As you do this, you'll start to notice changes. At first, they might be subtle. You might find yourself reacting less and responding more. You might notice that you're making better decisions, that you're more in tune with your true desires and goals. But as you continue this practice, the changes will become more profound. You'll start to attract the right people and opportunities into your life. You'll find yourself achieving goals with less effort because you're no longer wasting energy on unnecessary noise. Remember, success leaves clues. And if you look at the most successful people throughout history, you'll find that many of them practiced the art of silence. They understood its power to clarify thought, to inspire creativity, and to attract abundance. Take Thomas Edison, for example. He was known for his ability to work in long stretches of focused silence. It was in these silent periods that he came up with his most groundbreaking inventions. Or consider Albert Einstein, who said, "The monotony and solitude of a quiet life stimulates the creative mind." These great minds understood something that many of us have forgotten in our noisy, fast-paced world. They understood that silence is not empty. It's full of answers. But let's get practical for a moment. How can you start incorporating more silence into your life? Well, it starts with a decision to value silence, to seek it out, to create it in your life. First, start your day with silence. Before you check your phone, before you turn on the TV or radio, take a few moments to sit in silence. Just breathe, just be. You'll be amazed at how this simple practice can set the tone for your entire day. Second, practice active listening. When someone is speaking to you, really listen. Don't just wait for your turn to talk. Listen with your whole being. This is a form of silence, the silence of your own thoughts as you truly hear another person. Third, take regular breaks from technology. Our devices are wonderful tools, but they're also sources of constant noise and distraction. Set aside times each day to disconnect. You might feel uncomfortable at first, but stick with it. In that discomfort lies growth. Fourth, spend time in nature. Nature has a way of quieting the mind like nothing else. Whether it's a walk in the park or a hike in the mountains, make time to immerse yourself in the natural world. Fifth, practice mindfulness. This doesn't have to mean formal meditation, although that's great too. It can be as simple as bringing your full attention to whatever you're doing in the moment. When you're eating, just eat. When you're walking, just walk. This kind of mindful presence is a form of inner silence. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, this all sounds great, but I have a busy life. I have responsibilities. I can't just sit around being silent all day. And you're right. I'm not suggesting you become a monk unless that's your calling, of course. What I'm suggesting is that you find a balance. Think of silence as a tool in your success toolkit. Just like you make time for exercise to keep your body healthy, make time for silence to keep your mind clear and your spirit aligned. It's not about escaping your responsibilities. It's about enhancing your ability to meet them. You see, when you cultivate silence, you become more efficient in everything you do. You make better decisions because you're operating from a place of clarity rather than reactivity. You communicate more effectively because you're truly listening, not just waiting to... You become more creative because you're giving your mind the space it needs to make new connections. But here's the real secret. When you embrace silence, you start to understand who you truly are. Not who others expect you to be, not who you think you should be, but who you are at your core. And when you operate from that place of authenticity, amazing things start to happen. You start to attract the right opportunities because you're no longer chasing after things that aren't aligned with your true self. You start to build deeper, more meaningful relationships because you're coming from a place of genuine self-awareness. You start to achieve your goals with less struggle because you're no longer fighting against your own nature. Now, I want to be clear about something. When I say be silent, I don't mean be passive. I don't mean sit back and wait for life to happen to you. What I mean is to operate from a place of inner stillness, of quiet confidence. Think of it like this. Have you ever seen a truly great athlete in action? They move with a kind of effortless power. There's no wasted energy, no unnecessary movement. They're fully present, fully focused. That's the kind of silence I'm talking about. It's not an action. It's focused, purposeful action that comes from a place of inner quiet. The same principle applies in business, in relationships, in every area of life. When you learn to be silent, to listen deeply, to observe keenly, you develop a kind of superpower. You see opportunities that others miss. You understand people in a way that builds trust and loyalty. You make decisions based on deep insight rather than superficial information. But here's the thing. This kind of silence takes practice. In our noisy world, it's a skill that we need to cultivate deliberately. It might feel uncomfortable at first. You might find yourself fidgeting, reaching for your phone, looking for some kind of distraction. That's normal. Push through it. On the other side of that discomfort is a whole new level of clarity and power. Start small. Set aside 5 minutes a day for silent reflection. Gradually increase that time. Make it a non-negotiable part of your daily routine, just like brushing your teeth or eating breakfast. Over time, you'll start to crave these moments of silence. They'll become oases of calm in your busy day, sources of renewal and inspiration. As you develop this practice, you'll start to notice changes in how you interact with the world. You'll find yourself responding rather than reacting. You'll make decisions from a place of calm certainty rather than frantic urgency. You'll start to attract people and opportunities that align with your true self. But perhaps most importantly, you'll develop a deep sense of inner peace in a world that's constantly trying to tell you who to be, what to do, what to buy. You'll have an unshakable connection to your own truth. And that, my friends, is true freedom. Now, I want to address something that might be on some of your minds. You might be thinking, this all sounds great, but I'm an extrovert. I get my energy from interacting with others. How can silence work for me? Well, let me tell you something. Being silent doesn't mean being antisocial. It doesn't mean cutting yourself off from the world. What it means is developing the ability to be still within yourself, even in the midst of activity. It means learning to listen deeply, to observe keenly, to be fully present in your interactions. For extroverts, this might look like taking a few moments of quiet reflection before a big meeting or social event. It might mean practicing active listening in your conversations, really tuning in to what the other person is saying instead of just waiting for your turn to speak. It might mean setting aside some time each day for quiet reflection, even if it's just a few minutes. The goal is not to change who you are, but to enhance who you are, to give you access to a deeper well of creativity, insight, and personal power. Now let's talk about how this principle of silence applies to achieving your goals. Many people think that achieving their dreams is all about action. And yes, action is important. But what kind of action? Is it frantic activity born of anxiety and fear? Or is it purposeful action that comes from a place of clarity and inner knowing? When you learn to be silent, to quiet your mind and listen to your inner wisdom, you start to take the right actions at the right time. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter and start focusing on what truly does. You become more efficient, more effective. Think about it like this. Have you ever been stuck on a problem, thinking about it constantly, turning it over and over in your mind? And then when you finally let it go, when you stop thinking about it for a while, suddenly the solution appears. That's the power of silence in action. When you quiet your mind, you create space for insights to emerge. You allow your subconscious mind to work on problems in the background. And often, the solutions that emerge are far more creative and effective than anything you could have come up with through sheer force of will. But it goes beyond just problem solving. When you cultivate silence in your life, you start to get clear on what you really want. Not what society tells you you should want, not what your fears and insecurities drive you towards, but what truly resonates with your soul. And when you get clearer on that, when you align your actions with your true desires, amazing things start to happen. Doors open, opportunities appear, the right people come into your life at just the right time. It's not magic. It's what happens when you're operating from a place of authentic alignment. Now, I want to be clear about something. This doesn't mean that challenges will magically disappear from your life. Challenges are a part of growth, a part of the journey. What it does mean is that you'll face those challenges from a place of inner strength and clarity. You'll see them not as obstacles, but as opportunities for growth and learning. Think of the great leaders throughout history, the ones who made a real difference in the world. They weren't the loudest voices in the room. They weren't the ones constantly seeking attention. They were the ones who knew how to be still, how to listen, how to tap into a deeper wisdom. They understood that true power doesn't come from dominating others or making the most noise. It comes from being so centered, so clear in your purpose, that you naturally inspire others to follow your lead. That's the kind of leader you can become when you embrace silence, whether you're leading a company, a family, or just taking charge of your own life. This principle applies. Be still, listen deeply, and let your actions speak louder than your words. Now, I want to talk about something that might be uncomfortable for some of you. When you start practicing silence, when you start turning inward and really listening to your own thoughts and feelings, you might not like everything you hear at first. You might become aware of fears you've been avoiding, of behaviors that aren't serving you, of dreams you've let slip away. This is normal. In fact, it's a crucial part of the process. Because here's the thing, you can't change what you're not aware of. By bringing these things into your consciousness, you give yourself the power to address them, to heal, to grow. It's like cleaning out an attic. At first, it might seem overwhelming. You might uncover things you've forgotten about, things that bring up difficult emotions. But as you sort through it all, as you decide what to keep and what to let go of, you create space. Space for new possibilities, new growth, new life. This is the transformative power of silence. It's not just about finding peace, although that's certainly a wonderful benefit. It's about creating the space for real, lasting change in your life. As you continue this practice, as you make silence a regular part of your life, you'll start to notice changes. You'll find yourself becoming more patient, more understanding. You'll find yourself making decisions with greater ease and confidence. You'll find yourself attracting people and opportunities that align with your true self. But perhaps most importantly, you'll find yourself developing a deep sense of inner peace, a sense of being at home in yourself regardless of what's happening in the external world. And in our chaotic, fast-paced world, that kind of inner peace is priceless. Now, I want to address something that might be on some of your minds. You might be thinking, this all sounds great, but I live in the real world. I have bills to pay, deadlines to meet, people depending on me. How can I possibly make time for silence? And I get it. I really do. We live in a world that values busyness, that often equates activity with productivity. But here's the thing. Being busy isn't the same as being effective. In fact, constant busyness can often lead to burnout, to making poor decisions, to a feeling of being constantly overwhelmed. That's where silence comes in. It's not about escaping your responsibilities. It's about enhancing your ability to meet them. When you make time for silence, even if it's just a few minutes a day, you're investing in yourself. You're sharpening your most important tool, your mind. Think of it like this. If you had a golden goose that laid golden eggs, would you run it ragged Would you push it to exhaustion? Of course not. You take care of it, nurture it, give it time to rest and rejuvenate. Well, your mind is that golden goose. It's the source of your ideas, your problem-solving abilities, your creativity. By giving it regular periods of silence, you're ensuring that it can continue to produce at its highest level. Now, I'm not saying you need to dramatically change your life overnight. Start small. Maybe it's 5 minutes of quiet reflection in the morning before you start your day. Maybe it's a silent walk during your lunch break. Maybe it's turning off the radio during your commute and just being with your thoughts. As you start to experience the benefits of these moments of silence, you'll naturally want to create more of them in your life. You'll start to prioritize them, to see them not as a luxury, but as a necessity for your well-being and success. And here's something fascinating you. As you create more space for silence in your life, you'll often find that you actually become more productive. Why? Because you're operating from a place of clarity and focus, rather than frantic activity. You're making better decisions, prioritizing more effectively, and wasting less energy on unnecessary tasks. Now let's talk about how this principle of silence applies to your relationships. In our hyper-connected world, we often confuse constant communication with true connection. We think that always being available, always having something to say is the key to strong relationships. But is it really? Think about the people you feel closest to, the relationships that are most meaningful to you. I bet those relationships aren't characterized by constant chatter. I bet they're the ones where you can sit in comfortable silence together, where you can communicate volumes without saying a word. When you cultivate silence in your life, you bring that quality to your relationships. You become a better listener, more attuned to the unspoken needs and feelings of others. You become more present, more fully engaged in your interactions. And that, my friends, is the foundation of deep, meaningful connections. But it goes beyond just your personal relationships. This principle applies in business, in leadership, in any situation where you're interacting with others. When you're comfortable with silence, you project a quiet confidence that others respond to. You're not scrambling to fill every moment with words. You're listening, observing, gathering information before you speak. Think about the most effective negotiators, the most inspiring leaders. They're not the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who know when to speak and when to be silent. They understand the power of a well-placed pause, of giving others the space to fill the silence. Now, I want to address something that might be challenging for some of you. When you start practicing silence, when you start turning inward, you might encounter some uncomfortable truths about yourself. You might become aware of habits or patterns that aren't serving you. You might realize that some of the goals you've been chasing aren't really what you want. This can be scary. It might feel like the ground is shifting beneath your feet. But I want you to understand something. This discomfort is a sign of growth. It's a sign that you're getting in touch with your authentic self, perhaps for the first time in years. And here's the beautiful thing. Once you become aware of these truths, you have the power to change them. You can start aligning your life with what truly matters to you. And when you do that, when you start living from a place of authenticity, that's when the magic really happens. You'll find that you have more energy, more enthusiasm for life. You'll find that opportunities start coming your way. Opportunities that align with your true self, not just with the person you thought you were supposed to be. You'll find that your relationships become deeper, more meaningful, because you're showing up. Now, I want to talk about something that's crucial to understand as you embark on this journey of silence. It's not always going to be easy. In fact, at first, it might be downright uncomfortable. We live in a world of constant noise and distraction, and when you start to remove those distractions, it can feel unsettling. You might find that your mind races, that you're suddenly aware of all the thoughts and feelings you've been avoiding. You might feel restless, anxious, even bored. This is normal. In fact, it's part of the process. Think of it like this. If you've been in a noisy room for hours and then suddenly step into silence, your ears might ring for a while. But as you adjust, you start to hear things you couldn't hear before. The rustle of leaves, the distant song of a bird. The same thing happens when you start cultivating silence in your life. At first, the contrast might be jarring. But as you stick with it, you start to tune into subtler frequencies. You start to hear the whispers of your intuition, the quiet voice of your true self. So if you find yourself struggling with silence at first, don't give up. Push through the discomfort. On the other side of that discomfort is a whole new level of clarity, peace, and personal power. Now let's talk about how this principle of silence can transform your career or business. In the business world, there's often a premium placed on being heard, on making your voice known. And yes, there are times when speaking up is important, but there's also immense power in knowing when to be silent. When you cultivate silence, you develop the ability to observe keenly, to listen deeply. And in business, information is power. By being silent, by truly listening, you gather valuable insights that others might miss. You pick up on subtle cues, on unspoken needs and desires, and that gives you a significant advantage. Think about the most successful entrepreneurs and business leaders. They're not just good talkers, they're excellent listeners. They know how to be silent, how to create space for others to share their thoughts and ideas. And it's often in those moments of silence that the most valuable insights emerge. But it goes beyond just gathering information. When you operate from a place of inner silence, you make better decisions. You're not reactive, jumping at every opportunity or threat. Instead, you're responsive, taking thoughtful, considered action based on deep understanding. And here's something fascinating. When you cultivate this quality of inner silence, people notice. They're drawn to your calm presence, your quiet confidence. In a world of noise and hype, someone who knows the power of silence stands out. They become a center of gravity, attracting opportunities and resources. Now, I want to talk about how this principle of silence applies to your personal growth and development. Many people think that personal growth is all about acquiring new knowledge, new skills, new experiences, and yes, those things are important. But true transformation often happens in the spaces between, in the moments of silence and reflection. When you create space for silence in your life, you give yourself the opportunity to integrate your experiences, to really absorb the lessons life is teaching you. You give yourself the chance to hear your own inner wisdom, to get in touch with your deepest values and desires. Think of it like this. If you're constantly filling a cup with water, it will eventually overflow. But if you give the water time to settle, to be absorbed, the cup can hold more. The same is true with personal growth. By creating periods of silence and reflection, you allow yourself to truly absorb and integrate new knowledge and experiences. But it goes beyond just absorbing information. In silence, you also give yourself the space to dream, to envision new possibilities for your life. In our busy, noisy world, it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, to lose sight of our bigger dreams and aspirations. Silence gives you the opportunity to reconnect with those dreams, to imagine new possibility. And here's the thing, when you get clear on what you truly want, when you align your actions with your deepest values and desires, amazing things start to happen. You start to attract the right opportunities. You find yourself having more energy, more enthusiasm for life. You become magnetic, drawing people and resources that align with your vision. Now, I want to address something that might be on some of your minds. You might be thinking, this all sounds great, but I'm not sure I can do it. I'm not sure I can be silent. My mind is always racing, and I get it. In our fast-paced, hyper-connected world, the idea of being silent can seem daunting, even impossible. But here's the thing, silence is a skill. Like any skill, it takes practice. And the good news is, anyone can learn it. Start small. Maybe it's just 1 minute of silence a day. Set a timer, close your eyes, and just focus on your breath. Don't worry if your mind wanders, that's normal. Just gently bring your attention back to your breath each time you notice you've been distracted. As you get more comfortable with this practice, Gradually increase the time. Maybe it's 2 minutes, then 5, then 10. Before you know it, you'll find yourself craving these moments of silence. They'll become oases of calm in your busy day, sources of renewal and inspiration. And here's something fascinating. As you develop this skill of being silent, you'll find that it starts to permeate other areas of your life. You'll find yourself naturally becoming more patient, more focused, more present in your daily activities. You'll find yourself making better decisions, responding rather than reacting to life's challenges. Now, I want to talk about something that's crucial to understand as you embark on this journey of silence. It's not about escaping from the world. It's not about disconnecting from life. On the contrary, it's about engaging with life more fully, more authentically. When you cultivate silence, you're not running away from anything. You're running towards your true self. You're creating space to hear your own inner wisdom, to get in touch with your deepest values and desires. And when you operate from that place of inner knowing, you engage with the world in a much more powerful way. Think of it like this. A tree needs strong roots to withstand storms and reach towards the sky. In the same way, by cultivating inner silence, you're developing strong roots. You're creating a solid foundation from which you can reach out and engage with the world. And here's the beautiful thing. When you engage with the world from this place of inner silence, you bring a quality of presence, of authenticity that others respond to. You become a source of calm in a chaotic world. You become someone others trust, someone others want to be around. Now, as we near the end of our time together, I want to leave you with a challenge. For the next week, I want you to commit to creating at least 5 minutes of silence in your day. It can be first thing in the morning, during your lunch break, or right before bed. Find a time that works for you. During these 5 minutes, don't try to do anything. Don't try to solve problems or make plans. Just be. Just breathe. Just allow yourself to be silent. At first, it might feel uncomfortable. You might find your mind racing, filled with thoughts and worries. That's okay. Just notice those thoughts without judging them and gently bring your attention back to your breath. As you continue this practice, you might start to notice changes. You might find yourself feeling calmer, more centered. You might find that you're making better decisions, that you're more in tune with your true desires and goals. But even if you don't notice any immediate changes, stick with it. The benefits of silence often accumulate subtly over time. It's like working out. You might not see results after one session, but if you keep at it consistently, the changes can be profound. Remember, in a world that's constantly telling you to speak up, to make noise, to promote yourself, choosing to be silent is a radical act. It's a declaration that you value your inner world, that you trust your own wisdom. So embrace silence. Make it a part of your daily life. Use it as a tool to clarify your thoughts, to connect with your true self, to enhance your effectiveness in every area of your life. Because here's the truth. Everything you need, everything you're seeking, is already within you. In the silence, you give yourself the chance to hear it, to connect with it, to live from it. And when you do that, when you align your life with your true self, that's when you'll find that you truly can have everything in your life. Not because you've chased after it or fought for it, but because you've created the inner conditions for it to naturally flow to you. So be silent, listen deeply, trust your inner wisdom, and watch as your life transforms in ways you never thought possible.